we are talking about probably the most informed team in the Premier League. We are talking about the resurgence of Manchester City under Pep Guardiola that is going to pose a very huge challenge for Chelsea and Chelsea's hopes for the top four. Manchester City, on the other hand, are trying to apply as much pressure as they can. Currently, they are 9 points behind Arsenal with at least a game in hand. So they're trying to do it. So can Chelsea actually stop them? Rosinha has gone under heavy criticism for his inability to actually get a clear victory over the top teams. But coming up against probably the best manager in world football will be his toughest test. Now, Pep Guardiola has refined Manchester City recently, making Manchester City such a potent team, striking a balance between defense and attack, and coming up with direct ways of splitting and opening up teams for fun. And let's just try to understand this. Now, in Manchester City versus Liverpool's FA Cup, it clearly shows us the evolution of Pep. Liverpool tried to press Manchester City, but in a way in which they tried to match Manchester City in midfield man to man. Now, this is where problems started for Liverpool, because Manchester City like to build up with their goalkeeper, in particular Trafford, and using a goalkeeper as an extra player in midfield always means that Guardiola can always free one fullback. Now, if Liverpool decided to go man-to-man at the back, this is what Pep Guardiola generally wants, because he generally understands that he has players who are fast enough, who have a lot of pace, and players who are much deadly. And nowadays, we have seen Pep choosing even to go directly long, either for the runs of Semenyo in this case, who's very physical and very dominant to receive the ball, or the runs of Erling Haaland, who has also shown his ability to make those off-the-shoulder runs. This is Manchester City building from the back, and you can see the spaces that they are trying to create. So they are forcing the opposition team to come forward to them using quick one-touch passes and looking to occupy that space in that half-space zone. A simple pass, and Manchester City are able to leave from their defensive third onto the offensive third. And in this scenario, Manchester City are finding themselves in a position where with just 2 or very few seconds they're in the opposition half. Now, if you're new in this channel, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's look at how to stop Manchester City. Now, stopping Manchester City was actually invented by Mauricio Pochettino. That is stopping the Pep Guardiola's dreadful, potent box midfield by having a narrow 4-4. But Pep, being Pep, has evolved from this, knowing very well that the 4-4 was generally used to have a concrete wall in that central position of the pitch that no opposition team can actually play through that central area. Now, this made Pep to evolve. One way Pep evolved is by pushing his fullback into that zone 14 area so that he can form a kite, that is at least 3 players moving in between the lines and actually trying to outnumber the deeper midfielders who are covering the box. That is his twin tens. And this was complemented by having a back 3. So you have a 3-1-3. And this is something that worked for Pep initially, but I will show you how teams have come up to stop it. And this is the way teams have stopped it. But let's try and look at it. Here you can see Liverpool and Manchester City. And you can see even Rodri is the one this time who has dropped in between the lines to allow Nunez to actually push further forward. And this is because Manchester City are trying to create that back 3. Here again, you can see that 3-1. And you can see that immediately the first line of pressure is beaten. Rodri has space to carry the ball because the 2 Liverpool midfielders are actually covering Bernardo Silva and Ryan Cherki in between the lines. Now, here again, you can see this system where if Rodri has actually been covered, then Manchester City can easily pick Bernardo Silva, who's constantly the free man loitering all over the midfield because of that 3-2 that is being generated by the 3-1-3-3 build-up structure. Now, because of this, you find that teams tend to be more conservative, more compact, making it difficult for Manchester City to break them. So Pep has decided to come up with a system where it is playing the ball backwards, meaning that they are trying to play the ball backwards as much so that they can draw opposition teams to press them. Now, Manchester City know that they are probably one of the best teams to play under pressure. So what happens is that they like to play the ball back to the goalkeeper. Then once the opposition team is baited into a press, they're able to play the ball in between the lines for players like Bernardo Silva, Ryan Cherki, even sometimes Semenyo being the one who actually comes in that midfield position. This allows players like Haaland to also use their link-up play and then have Manchester City transition the ball from a position where the football was stale to a position where the football is in the attacking phase. Here you can see Liverpool are very well structured, are very well narrow. And despite Manchester City's overload, Liverpool are in a quite conservative position. So what does Manchester City do? They do not insist on playing through the wall that has been created by Liverpool. No. They choose to actually play the ball backwards. Now, playing the ball backwards forces Liverpool players to actually engage in a press. Why? Because Liverpool players have been baited. So Liverpool commit 3 players onto the press. Once they have committed those 3 players into the press, you can see the position that Semenyo occupies. Semenyo gets the ball, and once he gets the ball, what do you notice? Now Manchester City have managed to take out Liverpool's front and midfield lines. And now Manchester City have a 5v5 in attack. So Rosinha needs to understand this. The way you press Manchester City is not the way you press these other teams. And Manchester City will punish Chelsea if Chelsea do not press them well. You can see here it is Newcastle versus Chelsea. You can see Chelsea are looking to apply pressure. You can see the position of Cucurella towards Livramento and Garnacho, who has moved to press the goalkeeper. Now, here is the problem with Chelsea's press. Now, Chelsea's press is a man-oriented press. It does not include man-to-man or zonal pressing, with the fullbacks being super aggressive to step out to cover their wingers. And this is where problems actually start for Chelsea. Because of the aggressive nature of the fullbacks, what you notice sometimes is that in this case, Newcastle decided to push Livramento into midfield during build-up, and Livramento was actually the fullback. And now Garnacho is caught into 2. He doesn't know whether to cover Livramento and allow the centre-back to have the ball. Here again, look at how go if they continue to play like this. Rosinha should understand, especially players like João Pedro and Garnacho, who I've seen are very lacking when it comes to pressing. You must not allow Manchester City the space to have free players in between the lines, especially at the central areas of the pitch. If that is allowed, then Chelsea will be punished. But Chelsea must know that zonal marking is much important as man marking. Thank you and see you in the next video, as I will now give you my lineup preview for that game.